Hi everyone, welcome back to another very exciting Photoshop Daily Creative Challenge. I am your host, Jesus Ramirez. How are you guys doing today? I see a lot of action in the chat already. By the way, if you're watching on YouTube, I cannot see the chat there. Make sure that you log into behance.net/live so that I can see your comments in the chat. Again, a lot of familiar faces in the chat as usual. Good to see you, Sean, Alberto, Mark, Jan, Michelle. Sam, good to see you. Thanks for helping out. Valdir, Anthony, Jan, again, Devika, Billy, Noir. Thank you guys so much for joining me. It's great to see you here. Let me know in the chat where you're watching from. Either you're probably having a good Monday morning or a good Monday afternoon or evening, depending on where you're watching from. Today we're gonna have challenge number 5. Challenge number 5, and let me switch over into my screen so that you can see what I'm looking at. Let me just click on this little icon here to switch over onto my screen, and what you're looking at now is the Daily Creative Challenge page, the Photoshop Daily Creative Challenge page, and you can get there by going into behance.net/challenge/Photoshop. Make sure that you click on this big blue button in the center. That will allow you to get Creative Cloud notifications for the Photoshop Daily Creative Challenge. And also scroll down to the bottom of the page. Every day we're unlocking one new challenge. Today is actually challenge number 5, not challenge number 5. I think I said 5 earlier, right? Is that what I said? Let me know in the chat if I said something else, but no, it's challenge number 5. And make sure that you click on the Get Started button so you can download the image that I'm going to work with today so that you can follow along with me. You don't have to use this image if you don't want to. You can use your own, but maybe you want to follow along with me first. Once you learn the technique, feel free to use your own image. And today we're going to work with text effects. I'm going to show you how to create a realistic stone text effect in Photoshop. So we're going to use a photo of a rock and we're going to convert it into a realistic looking stone text effect. Cool. While you guys download that, let me just make sure that the chat is doing all right. And I see a whole bunch of people answering my questions. Or the question was where you were watching from. We got Monica from Germany, Rick from Wyoming. We have Mateo from Mexico. We got Enzo from Buenos Aires, Argentina. Awesome. Deb from California, beautiful California. I'm from California. We have Nivedita from Dubai. We got Sean from Germany. We have Mia from Michigan. Awesome. We have Mohammed from Pakistan. We have Alberto Jose Diaz from Monterrey, Mexico. Super cool. Michelle says, hi, looking forward as always to your teachings. Cool. I hope that you enjoyed today's challenge. Cool. We have Mia from Michigan. Super cool. Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for joining me. I really appreciate you guys being here with me today. Before we get started, I do want to mention one other thing, and that is to make sure that you click on the community chat link. That way you go over into our Discord page, and if you don't know how to get there, you can click on that link or you can follow the link right up above my head, and that will get you onto this page, which is where we are sharing the work that we create during the Photoshop Daily Creative Challenge. Notice right up above my head there is a current challenge tab. If you click on that, you can submit the work that you create with me, and you can also ask questions, give advice, anything that you like. I'm there. The other Adobe mentors are there. Claudia from Print My Soul, Sam, Beldier. We also have the Adobe folks. We have Gus, Rufus, Samantha, Kathleen is there. Everyone is here. So make sure that you come in and submit your work on the Discord page here under current challenge. If I scroll up, you'll see some of the body distortions that we did last week. Also the not double exposure, the duotone color grading effect that we created last week as well. So make sure that you come in here and submit your work. And also, talking about submitting your work, make sure that you submit your work on Behance as well. You can click on create a project, go through the upload process, but make sure that you include the hashtag PS Daily Challenge, because that will give you an opportunity to be featured in the curated community gallery. This is the gallery here. We feature works for work from the Photoshop Daily Creative Challenge, the Illustrator Daily Creative Challenge, and the XD Daily Creative Challenge. So make sure that you check this gallery out. You can find it under behance.net/galleries/challenges. And again, the way that you can be featured on here is by using the hashtag PS Daily Challenge, and that will give you an opportunity to be featured on here. So this is a curated community gallery. So check it out to get some inspiration if you like. Cool. So again, make sure that you download the file under July 27th text effects, and we're going to create a realistic stone text effect using layer styles and textures. All right. So you guys ready to get started? Cool. Let's jump right into Photoshop, and this is the image. It's an Adobe stock image. You don't have to license it if you don't want to. You can take a photo of a rock outside your house if you want. I just provided an Adobe stock photo. They're free to use. They have a watermark. The way to remove the watermark is just by right-clicking on it and licensing the image. Obviously, that is not free, but you can definitely license the image if you like to remove the watermark. All right, cool. So now that I'm working with this file here, all I need to do is just type a word or maybe just one character and duplicate the effect over multiple characters to create a word. Totally up to you. In this stream, just to keep things simple, I'm going to use just one character, okay? Just one. But if you were doing this for an entire word or over multiple characters, the technique will be the same. I just want to keep things simple for the stream, all right? So what I'm going to do is simply select the type tool here and just type in a word. I'm just going to, or a letter in this case, I'm just going to use P for Photoshop, and I'm just going to make that larger. P for Photoshop, and make that as large as that rock, like so. And what I'm going to do now is hold Control on Windows, that's Command on the Mac, and click on the layer thumbnail to make a selection around that letter. See that? See how I just made a selection around it? And all I'm going to do now is click on the rock and click on the layer mask icon to mask that out. I also need a background just to make things easier to see. You can just create a solid color fill layer, make it whatever color you like. I'll just make it a light gray, but use any background that you want. I just want to make things simple and easy to see so I can teach you the technique, but you can use whatever background that you like. It could be a gray background, it could be a gradient, it could be a photo, anything that you like. Cool. So now let's really start working on this and apply an effect that makes it seem like an actual rock. So first of all, we need to make sure that we take advantage of the contours of the actual rock, of the, the peaks and valleys of the rock, so that we can make it seem as if this is a 3D object and it's sticking out. It's not just a sharp edge, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the layer mask right back down here, the layer mask. I'm going to make sure that the focus, this white outline, is on my layer mask. Then from the properties panel, and if you don't see it, you can go into window and properties. You should see this density slider. And if I drag the density slider to the left, you can see how the layer mask starts disappearing. See that? And also look at the layer mask thumbnail. Now it's completely white, which means that there is no layer mask. That everything is being shown. So it's sort of like an opacity for the layer mask. See that? So I'm just going to bring the opacity to, or density to be more accurate, to about 80%, maybe even 85. I just want to be able to see the rock behind. And what I can do now is with the brush tool, make sure that I have my spacing set to 1% and also my hardness set to 100%. And I can come in here and paint with white, and see that when I paint with white, I start revealing the texture behind there. So what you want to do now is look at the letter that you're working with, and also look at the actual rock and take advantage of the areas of the rock that stick out or that go in. Just try to follow the actual contours of the rock around your letter to make it look more realistic. So I'll zoom in and see what we can do here. So you can see that in this area right here, the rock is sort of broken, so maybe I can hide that and take advantage of that. So I'm going to press the X key on the keyboard. The X key swaps the foreground and background color. When you have the layer mask selected, the only colors that you'll see on there are black and white by default. Obviously you can select a shade of gray, but by default it'll be black and white, and you can tap the X key to swap those. So you can click and just paint like so. See that? See how I'm just following the contours of that rock? Like so. And maybe I want this part. See how this part's sticking out? Maybe I want that part to stick out. So I can paint with white and make that part stick out and maybe hide this area because that doesn't look right. But see now how just by making that little adjustment, now it's giving shape to the rock and makes it seem as if that part of the rock is sticking out. That's what we want to do throughout the entire image. And obviously it's your discretion as to how you paint in the details, but just follow the actual contours of the rock as best as you can and make sure that the right areas stick out and that the right areas go in. Totally up to you. Maybe in this case I'll hide these areas like so. And I'm obviously going very quickly here because there's a lot more things that I want to show you, but I think that you get the idea. See here how the P is cutting this part of the rock and it doesn't look very good, but look at the natural contour of the rock here. See how it kind of follows the P, but not really. So if we were to actually follow it, the P would look a lot more realistic because we're using the actual contours of the rock and it doesn't look as fake as computer generated. See that? So just by making those tiny little adjustments, you're starting to make the image look a lot more realistic. Cool. Let me see if there's any questions in the chat here. Yeah, it would be great to have Dwayne, I'm guessing Dwayne Johnson in the chat, The Rock, the wrestler, movie star. Cool. Awesome. It looks like the question is, should we publish each challenge as we finish or wait until we're finished next Friday? No, you should publish them today. If you're done with them today, publish them today. If you're a day behind, you can publish it tomorrow. No problem. Let me see. Awesome. Yeah, looks like there's no questions. Cool. So what's the banana under the zoom tool? The banana under the zoom tool is just a Easter egg from the Photoshop engineer. So if you go into edit toolbar and you hold the shift key and click on done, it adds a banana on the toolbar. So that's how you would add a banana into a toolbar. It's just for fun. It really doesn't do anything. It's just to be fun. But anyway, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to really quickly go over the rest of the image. Again, I'm not going to be as accurate as I would be on a real project, but I am going to just try to make it as best as I can in like 2-3 minutes because I want to show you the next technique, and I think it'll look better if if it actually look more like the finished product rather than just those straight edges. So I'm just gonna paint with white to just reveal some of these areas like so. And obviously the faster that I go, the less attention I'm paying to the areas that should be showing or not, but I think you'll get the idea. And what I'll do now is actually, to be a little bit faster, is I'm just gonna paint with white all throughout the rock and just gonna not really pay too much attention to the layers below, and maybe I'll come back and refine it just a little bit for you guys, so that it looks a little better. But in this area there's this big rock here at the bottom, so we'll take advantage of that, something like that. And maybe here I'll hide it because I can see this little rock sticking out. And here, I mean, this is broken, so maybe we could just break off the P here. I don't know what you guys think. There's like a little break there in the rock, so we'll take advantage of that. Something like that. Let's go to the top here. Maybe in the top we make this part stick out more. Like so. Totally up to you guys how you follow the contours of the rock, and obviously it will depend on the character that you're working with. Like so. Maybe make this part stick out a little more, or maybe stick in. I think stick in might be better. Yeah. like so. And I just don't want any straight edges before we move on into the next step. See that? See how I'm taking advantage of this part here? This part right here, it's coming off. So I'm pushing, so I'm hiding the pixels in the top part, so it creates the illusion that it's really protruding out. It's not just a straight edge. So I'm just gonna hide these pixels here and follow those contours like so. And it just makes it seem a little more like an actual rock. Like so. Cool, maybe I'll have this part stick out. Actually, no, I don't like it sticking out. And I'm going quickly, but I'm tapping on the X key to swap the background and foreground color. Black hides, white reveals. So you can see as I'm working that the background and foreground color that are like right here, these guys right here, they're gonna, watch how they swap. See X, see that? So as I have my left hand on the X key and I'm painting with my right hand. And I can go pretty quickly. Like so. All right, cool. We'll just call that good for now. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show you the next step. So we'll call that good for now. And with the layer mask selected, what I'm gonna do is bring the density back up to 100%. The density is a non-destructive slider, just like the feather sliders. Feather just blurs the mask and is non-destructive. So that's a good way of either bringing down the opacity of the mask or blurring the mask non-destructively if you want. Non-destructively simply means you can come back and change it later. You're not committing to that change with these sliders. But anyway, so now that I brought back the rock, I can now apply layer styles to give it more depth and dimension and make it feel more real, like an actual thing. So what I'm gonna do now is, let me zoom in more so that you can see what that looks like. I'm gonna double click to the side of the layer to bring up the layer style window. And you know what? Actually, here, let me show you guys a trick. So like right now, I don't want my canvas to be in the center. I want it off to the side. And with the move tool selected, notice that I can't move it. I can't push it. It's just stuck in the center. So if you press Control K, Command K on the Mac, and you go into, let me see, is it Tools? Yeah, into Tools. So I'll do it again. Control K, Command K on the Mac to bring up the preferences, and under Tools, you'll have this option, Overscroll. So if you check Overscroll and press OK, now with the hand tool, notice that I can move the canvas off to the side if I want to. It's not locked to the center. So now that the canvas is there on the side, I'll put it right here, and when I double click to the side of the layer to bring up the layer style window, I can place the window next to the letter P, and I can control it much better and see what I'm doing. That way I don't cut the letter in half because I can't move it to the side. So Overscroll is a really cool feature in Photoshop that allows you to place the canvas wherever you like, and it's not locked in the center. Cool. So the first thing that I'm going to do is click on Bevel and Emboss, and I'll just reset it to default and start from scratch. And what Bevel and Emboss does is it applies a highlight and a shadow to your layer. And if you increase the size, you can see how you start giving it depth. You see that? And you can adjust the depth with this slider here. And in this case, maybe instead of using a smooth Bevel and Emboss, maybe we can go into Chisel Soft. And it makes it seem more like a rock. See that? Like it was carved in there. And now we can start adjusting the highlights and shadows. We'll start with the shadows. I'm not a big fan of using black for shadows. I always like to select whatever the darkest color in the image is. In this case, this dark brown, maybe even make it a little bit darker, and use that as a shadow so that it looks more realistic. See that? And I can start softening the edges. See that? See how this is really soft edges, really sharp edges. Totally up to you how soft or sharp you make your edges. I just don't like them razor sharp, so maybe add about, I don't know, 5 pixels or something like that just to smooth them out. Maybe even less, maybe 3 pixels seems fine. You can adjust the size and obviously the depth, so totally up to you. So in this case, about 450%, I'll just type that in, 450, and the size of about 25 pixels for the size works great, I would say. And you can adjust the multiply blending mode. In some cases, depending on the colors that you're working with, you might be better off switching the blending mode to either overlay or soft light. In this case, I think that multiply does a fantastic job, so I won't change it. But again, it depends on the image that you're working with. So if you find that multiply is really not giving you what you want, try some of the other blending modes. And for the highlights, I'll do the same thing. I'll double click on the highlights and I'll select the brightest spot in the image and just maybe even make it a little bit brighter, but not completely white. I want it to have just a little bit of color in there. So I'll press OK, and I can adjust the opacity here as well. So we have our letter P, and it's looking super, super cool. So what I'll do now is I'll add an inner shadow. And again, I can select the darkest color in the image, and I can increase the opacity. I can adjust it any way that I want. So in this case, maybe even flip. Actually, I don't want to flip it. Let me undo that. If I flip it, I flip the entire lighting of the scene. So I can uncheck use global light. That way I can flip it without affecting the other blending or the other layer styles. So now I can just add shadows in these areas like so, and maybe bring down the opacity. I don't want it to be so dark, so maybe something like that. And now I'll add a drop shadow. Again, I'll reset it to default so we can all work on it together. And I'll click on the black here, select the darkest color again, and maybe even make it darker than that, and press OK. Again, I don't like completely black shadows. I want there to be just a little bit of color. Like if you look at any shadow around you, it's not going to be completely black. It's just going to be a darker shade of whatever the surface color is. So I'm going to just increase the distance here and increase the size. Maybe I'll increase the distance a lot more. Maybe something like that. And just blur it. And what I'll do is I'll click on this icon to add a second shadow, and on that second shadow I'll reduce the distance and I'll reduce the size and maybe increase the opacity, something like that. And I'll add a little bit of noise just so that the shadow's not super smooth, maybe like 4%, nothing crazy, and I'll press OK. I'll double click on the hand tool to fit my image to screen, and you can see the effects that we applied with the blending modes. We apply the bevel and emboss, the inner shadow, the drop shadow, and a second drop shadow to try to make it as realistic as possible. So now it's your turn to go and work on this image, or maybe a rock outside your house, or anything that you want really, and follow these steps to create your own character, or maybe an entire word, whatever word you like. And I look forward to seeing your results on Discord. If you go into, once again, behance.net/challenge/Photoshop, you can click on the community chat link or on the link above my head here, and that will get you into the Discord page, the Photoshop Discord. And here on the left hand side under current challenge, make sure that you submit your daily creative challenges, and of course make sure that you submit them onto Behance under create a project, and use the hashtag PS Daily Challenge so that you can have an opportunity to be featured in the curated community gallery page. That's this one right here, and the same thing is true for the XD and Illustrator Daily Creative Challenges. You have an opportunity to be featured on here as well if you're following along with those challenges. I only have a couple more minutes, so before I say goodbye, let me just quickly show you guys the schedule. So we started the day with Spencer getting started in Adobe Fresco, then me doing the Photoshop Daily Creative Challenge. We have Aurelia coming up next doing vector art. We have Andrew doing the Illustrator Daily Creative Challenge at 11:30 a.m. Pacific. And then we have Chris Cannon doing mobile app design at noon Pacific. And we have Andrea doing Adobe XD Daily Creative Challenge at 2 p.m. Pacific. And we're going to end the day at 2:30 p.m. Pacific doing a doodle therapy with Alice Lee. So yeah, this is the day for this is the schedule for today. So I hope that you stick around all the way to the end. We're gonna have a lot of awesome challenges and streams all throughout the day. So thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you guys taking the time to join me on this morning, this afternoon, this evening, depending on where you're watching from. I'll be back again for another Photoshop Daily Creative Challenge, challenge number 6. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys again very soon. Stick around. We have another stream coming right up next. See you guys.